Hi, everyone. Well, if you made it this far, you're kind of interested in using or figuring out how to use Ortho4XP. So thanks for stopping by and watching the video, and hopefully this will get you started. So in general, Ortho4XP is a piece of software that lets one use orthographic satellite imagery in place of the default terrain inside the X-Plane flight simulator. If you need help finding the link to the actual Ortho4XP software, you can go to xplane.org, then go to the forums, then scroll all the way down into Xplane sponsored projects, and you'll see this whole forum here all about Ortho4XP. And you can drill into there, and then there's a link that says Ortho4XP v1.30.exe version. You can click that. As long as you're logged into the website and you have a free account, then there's links to where you can download this. This is what I use, the Windows binary package. So you can click here and it brings you to a Google Drive link where you can download the Windows executable. Let me show you real quick how I have my system set up, and then you can maybe adapt some of the changes depending on how your computer is set up. So I'm going to bring up Windows Explorer, and my X-Plane 11 installation is actually inside my documents folder. And so here you'll see two folders here. This is X-Plane 11 version 11.41, and then this is another folder that has beta versions of the upcoming 11.5 installed in that one for testing. So that's where my simulator is at. And then also, if we kind of look in here, you'll see my custom scenery folder that has lots of different free and payware scenery that you can find online at different outlets. Now, my Ortho4XP scenery is actually installed on another drive, and for me, that's hard drive letter D as in Delta. And so if I click that, you'll see the actual installation of Ortho4XP right here. And if I go into that folder, here's all of the files that get installed when you install Ortho4XP. And then inside binary, if you'll scroll down, and you will see an executable, Ortho4XP version 1.30.exe, and I've made a shortcut of that and actually put it in my taskbar so I can launch that and not have to drill down into this folder structure to find the executable. So that's where that lives. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that. Here's Ortho4XP. Now we're talking depending on which tile you need to make, these are the settings that I would recommend for scenery in Papua New Guinea. And the tile that we're working on right now is -5 in latitude and 142 degrees in longitude. And again, these coordinates are always based on a 1 degree of latitude by 1 degree of longitude, and it's always the southwest. These numbers identify the southwest corner of the tile that you want to work on. So that's a really important thing to understand, and that goes worldwide, no matter if you're working east of the prime meridian or west of the prime meridian. It's always the southwest corner that these numbers define which latitude, longitude tile that you're working on. The value that goes in here is the base folder as to where you want Ortho4XP to store the scenery that gets created. And you can see that mine points to drive D, and I've created a folder called Ortho Scenery. And again, this is different than where my actual simulator software is installed. My simulator software installation is again on drive C in the documents folder. So this can be somewhere completely different. If you get into making Ortho4XP scenery, you'll quickly realize that you want a lot of it, and it takes up a lot of disk space. And so I've just configured my computer system to have a separate hard drive that holds the bulk of the extra Ortho4XP scenery. And this is where that's located. So if I go out here, back out to the Explorer, and I look at my drive D, you'll see that I have this folder ortho scenery, and that matches here. And if we look into that, you'll see nothing but tiles and tiles and tiles of latitude, longitude of scenery that I've created. And so all of these are the same. They're very similar in nature as to what the contents is. It's just a different region of the planet. Again, all in 1 degree latitude by 1 degree longitude space on the Earth. Each of these folders represent that. So again, you're going to want to pick an area that has a lot of hard drive space. And ultimately, that's where whatever's put in this field is where Ortho4XP will actually save the final scenery. So again, I've put the software and I've put the folder where the scenery gets stored on the same drive, a big drive. This is an 8 terabyte drive. And you'll quickly realize that you can eat up a lot of space, but it makes the simulator much more enjoyable. You can actually go sightseeing, which is pretty amazing. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do is you want to define what imagery source you want to use. There's ARC, BI is Bing. I'm not sure what some of these stand for. GO2 is Google. USA2 is, I think, part of the United States Geological Survey. So there's a lot of different sources here, and all of this stuff can be configured. One thing I will warn you about is if you use Google imagery, there is a data quota that you can fill, and then they'll cut you off. So I would not recommend using Google imagery for larger areas. I've had most success using Bing and ARC. And for Papua New Guinea, actually, your mileage may vary, but I've had better luck with ARC with less cloud cover on the actual satellite imagery. So that's what I'd recommend here. I use zoom level 16, and again, these are values that the higher the number, the more resolution in the satellite imagery. And every time you increment a value here, it goes up exponentially. So if I pick zoom level 16, and if I want to go to 17, 17 requires 4 times the amount of data than what the previous level did. So be careful with this. This greatly affects how much disk space, and also depending on the capabilities of your computer, you can quickly exceed the capabilities of how well the sim runs, depending if you have marginal hardware running the simulator. So 16 is a good, what I kind of feel is a nice place to start. You can see how that works, and if the resolution and clarity of the satellite imagery is good enough for you, and then your simulator still performs well. So again, this is again what I would recommend as settings. Real quickly, what these buttons do, this is the program application settings. This is a place where you can define different zoom levels depend on a certain area map so that you can control I want places out in the country where there's no airports to be of a lower zoom level, so there's less data. And then for instance, if as I get closer to an airport, I want the zoom level or the image quality to get higher and higher. So I can define that inside here. This button shows me which tiles I have created over the Earth and helps me manage that data, which tiles I need to build, and also how I can link the scenery tiles that Ortho4XP builds, how I can link those into the simulator scenery. So this is super handy to use. This button stops all tasks, and this button closes the application. So just quickly, I'm going to go through here, and these are settings that contain how Ortho4XP is going to run. And a lot of these things you need to set up every time, or you need to kind of confirm these settings every time you're getting ready to build more Ortho4XP scenery tiles. I've posted a link in the article on downwindsim.com of some of the settings that I would recommend. There's just a picture that you can bring up and look at and compare your settings. This is one that I've changed, airport smoothing picks. I've changed some of these values here. They might be different than your default installation. I think I've bumped up the mask's width. I have changed high zoom level airports to true. The coverage extent, this value is how many, essentially what these three things do is it will control the zoom level automatically for you around the different airports. So for instance, again, my setting was at zoom level 16 here. And so let's say out in the country or rural areas where there's no airports, it's going to create tiles that are at zoom level 16. But when it gets within 1 kilometer of I think it's a kilometer, yeah, the extent in kilometers, when it gets within 1 kilometer of an airport, it's going to bump the zoom level up to 17. And this is whether or not it does that. It's either true or false. So I have just set that to true. So I've changed those things. The other thing I've done is I've used decal on terrain. I think I've set that to true. Again, it'd be worth kind of comparing what the default settings are that you have compared to what I have if you want to get similar results. And if you want to read what these things do, you can click on any of these buttons and it tells you what that function is actually going to do. So I can click here and it tells me more details about it, so on and so forth. Okay, so after you kind of check those things over, the other thing before you get ready to build scenery tiles is that you want to choose the source of where the digital elevation model is going to come from. In Papua New Guinea area, I've had best luck with this viewfinder panoramas. Clearly, some of these other ones could be options. I have not tried this. The NED 1 arc second and 1/3 arc second are only for USA and North America. I did try this SRTM, which is the Shuttle Relief Topography mission that had to do with some of the space shuttle missions, and I got some spikes, some noisy spikes in the digital elevation model, which ultimately translate into these real pointy mountains in the terrain, and I wasn't real crazy about that. So I've gone back to using this first one, Viewfinder Panoramas, and had pretty good luck with that. So that's what I would recommend. The only other things that you need to do is you need to make sure that this is set for your custom scenery directory of where X-Plane is at. So again, on my system, it is set on my C drive in my documents folder, and here's X-Plane 11 beta, and then X-Plane 11, and then there's custom scenery. So here's the path that X-Plane 11 is set up on my system. Yours might be slightly different, but you can see how there's the path for that. So you want to set this to be the custom scenery folder, and you can navigate to that just by clicking on this icon here on the folder. Same thing with the custom overlay source, and overlay scenery are things like roads, trees, anything that sits or overlays on top of the actual terrain. So again, just point, mine is set up to point to the same area to where the global scenery data comes from with Ortho4XP. So you can set yours to something similar. After you get all of these settings set up how you like it, all you need to do is anytime you make a change here, always hit the apply button, and that will make the changes, that'll write those changes to a file that Ortho4XP will actually use when it's creating tiles. And another thing is you can do this write app config, and it'll write these configuration settings to a file, so that the next time that you use Ortho4XP, if you come back the next day and start it again, it will remember most of these settings. So that's usually a good idea to do as well. But you always want to come in here and check these settings before. Again, that's with these tool icons. You want to check these settings before you make any tiles. Okay, so we've hit apply, we've hit exit, we've got all our settings set up right. Now the next thing to do is to actually build some tiles. So if I click on the world map, you're going to see this fill in, and on my system, you can see that these are tiles that I have created for the Papua New Guinea area. And I've also created a bunch of stuff back in the United States. So if I scroll all the way over here, you can see a huge collection of tiles that I've created. There's a little section right in here that I haven't made quite yet. But you get the idea of how this can really expand and take up a lot of disk space. So let me find Papua New Guinea again. Here's the area right here that we're worried about. Mouse controls are all down here. They're labeled. This is button 2. Press and hold to move map. So button 2 on your mouse, that's the right mouse button. Press and hold that. You can drag this around. Button 1, double click, selects the active tile. Shift button 1, add to a batch build. And control button 1 links the actual tile into your custom scenery folder. And I'll go through these in just a second, just so that you understand what's going on. So in our example here, we're actually, the last tile that I set up was actually -5, 142. And if you look in here, I think that's this one. So if I double click that one, that highlights in yellow, and you can see that those numbers up there are -5, 142. If I pick a different tile, watch up here and these numbers will change. There's 143, there's 144. If I go down, there's -6, -7, -8, so on and so forth. So you get the idea. This particular tile is the one that actually contains the Hana airstrip. And so I'm going to kind of focus on that to just give you an idea of how to build Ortho4XP terrain that then the airport scenery can actually sit on top of. So they all sort of work together, but I'll use this as an example. So if I double click that tile, -5, 142, that highlights in yellow. And then the only other thing that I need to do is I need to pick these things under the batch build tiles, assemble vector data. I want it to triangulate the 3D mesh. I want to draw water masks. I want to build imagery DFFs. And I also want to extract overlays. This one you don't have to worry about doing, but you can if you'd like. So after you pick all of those things, the next thing you would do is you would hit batch build. And I can go ahead and do that real quick, and you can kind of get an idea of what happens. You can see stuff will start to fill in here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit. I've selected this tile. Now the only other thing that I want to do is I want to do this. I want to hold down Shift and then press my button 1, which was my left mouse button. I'm going to hold down Shift on my keyboard, and then I'm going to click that, and you see that one now turns red. And so if I want to, I could add a bunch of tiles in here and say, I want to build all of these. And this is a thing that you can do, like if you want to build a bunch of tiles overnight. This is a great thing that you can load up, 10 or 20 different tiles, hit go, wake up in the morning, and most of them will be done depending on the speed of your computer. But that's how you would build an area that I don't have yet. Like let's say I want to build this part of Indonesia. I can pick these tiles and I can say, okay, I want to add all of these to the batch build, Shift button 1, and then I would pick all of these and I could hit batch build, and then it would the software would take off and start downloading the data over the internet and then building out these tiles. But for sake of demo purposes, I'm going to just click all of those again, Shift left mouse button, click all of those again. I'm just going to pick this one. It's going to use the arc imagery, and it's going to use, you can see arc is set here, and it's also going to use zoom level 16. I'm going to make sure that all of those are set, and the only other thing that I also want to do before I tell this to go is I want to make sure that all of these settings are set correctly. I'm going to hit apply, exit, and then I'm back over to here, and then once I have that highlighted in red, the tile that I want, all I would do is I would hit batch build. So after I hit batch build, you can see all of this verbose descriptions of what's going on and how far it's getting, and it goes out to the internet. It downloads OSM, or OpenStreetMap data. It downloads digital elevation models, and it also downloads the satellite imagery and converts all of that in a way that the X-Plane Flight Simulator can use it. So this will click along here. It'll vary as to the amount of time it takes to build a tile, depending on how fast your computer system is, and also um, how fast your internet connection is. So I'll zip ahead here, and we'll jump down to the end after it gets done building a tile, and then we'll continue. Okay, so Ortho4XP has finished its process, and when it gets done, it'll say batch process completed in. Mine says 2 minutes, 11 seconds, but it actually take longer on the initial run because I have already saved the satellite imagery and a bunch of stuff. So it reused a bunch of data that I already have. So yours probably might take a little bit longer. Now let me talk real quick about how to use some of the files that I've also included for this particular tile. Ortho4XP uses some OpenStreetMap data, and that gets downloaded. I'm going to go back to my Ortho4XP install folder, and inside here you'll see OSM data. And if I keep in mind this -5 142, that was the tile that we're working on. If I go in here into this OSM data folder, and then I'll scroll down here, and I want to ultimately want to find this -5 142, and that would probably be inside this folder in the -10 140. It kind of keeps things in buckets. So -10 140, and then in here -5 142. So here is the folder that contains some OpenStreetMap data. It has OpenStreetMap data about the airports in this particular tile, big roads, coastline, and water definitions. In other words, definitions of where lakes and rivers are at. And for this particular tile and scenery, I've actually gone in and modified some of these that will help give a little bit more accurate representation of the airfield in the simulator to match real life. And then one of the files that I have a link to on the website at downwindsim.com is this PNG AYHQ HANA ortho4xp.zip file. And inside that, you will find another folder with some of the details in it, and you'll see that these two files here are ones that I have actually modified to help make this particular airport a little bit more accurate than what the default OpenStreetMap data is. So what you would do is you would take these two files, drag them into here. You would overwrite what exists. I would say replace, and it will replace those two files, the airport definitions and then also the water. Now there's one more file in here. It's called AYHQ patch. And what the patch file does, think of it as a virtual bulldozer, to where if a runway has a particular slope or an airport has significant and unique elevation changes, you can actually create or define how Ortho4XP will handle that. And there's a certain place where you need to put this patch file for the airport AYHQ, which is HANA. All right, so let's find out where that guy goes. If you navigate back, let me just go back to my D drive, and let me close all this up. All right, we're back to D. Here's my Ortho4XP installation. Here's where that OSM data was, and right underneath there, you'll see a folder called patches. Now, this patch file actually needs to go in this folder, but it needs to go in a specific spot. And you'll see that inside this patches folder, there is another matching set of folders on my system that define where this actual patch file is going to go. So again, we were at -5 142. And so what you need to do is recreate this exact folder structure and then put the patch file inside that folder. So under patches, create a folder called -10 + 140, and then inside that folder, create another folder called -05 plus 142, and then inside that folder, you would copy the patch file into there and let that over. And again, you probably don't have any of these files in here. These are different patches that I have for different regions of the Earth. I've found airports that need a little bit more correction than what can be done automatically. But the important thing to know is that you just need to recreate this specific folder structure all the way down to hold this ayhq.patch.osm. So once you have the patch file copied into the right place, and once you have the OSM data, again, we can find that folder structure again in the OSM data. It's -10 140, and then -5 142. Here it is again. And remember, we replaced the airports, and we also replaced water. We replaced these two files. Once you have replaced all of those, the easiest thing to do is to come back to Ortho4XP, go back to the world, hold down Shift, click button 1 on your left mouse button, pick the tile again, and then make sure that all of these are selected and batch build the tile one more time. There's other shortcuts and different things that you can do, but I'm going to leave that for another day once you get a little bit more familiar with how to use Ortho4XP. That's basic. That's the basics. That's the simple way to do that. Now, the only other thing that you need to do is once you run it again and the batch process finally completes, you'll end up with a tile here that will be lighter green in color. And then the next thing that you need to do is you actually need to link it. You need to link the scenery file into the scenery system for X-Plane 11. And the way that you do that is you hold down the control button, and that links the custom scenery into the simulator. And let me just show you what's going on behind the scenes here. Let me go back up to the root of my drive D. Again, we've told Ortho4XP to save the finished scenery in this folder, D Ortho Scenery. So you'll look in here, and this is where the actual content, this is where the actual scenery lives. So again, we're looking for -5 142. We could cruise down and find that. I need to sort by name, I think. -5 142. So here's the one that it just made. And we can go in here, and here's all the data that the simulator needs to have. So let me jump back to here. Now, when we go to actually like control button 1, link in custom scenery, Ortho4XP provides a great way to actually link this folder into the folder where your simulator sits. And again, for me, that's on a different drive in the documents folder in right here in beta, X-Plane 11 beta, and then X-Plane, and all the way down into here. And if I go down to here, you can see that if I click that, you'll see all of these shortcut links in over to where my original Ortho4XP scenery is actually located on a different drive, again, on my drive D. Again, your system may vary a little bit. So what I would need to do is I would need to hold down the control button, and you'll see that this is how your scenery will look. It won't have the yellow square, but it'll look like a light green after Ortho4XP has made it. And then the only thing I need to do is I need to hold down the control button, left click, or button 1. I need to left click on that, and if I do that, then as long as I have all of these other settings set up, as long as I have this set up to point to my custom scenery folder, then Ortho4XP will create a shortcut automatically into my custom scenery folder for me, which is super handy. It creates all of this for me. Then the only other thing that I need to do is I need to run the simulator, and then my scenery will be there. Now, one more thing that I want to leave you with, it's important that the add-on scenery in X-Plane 11 is actually in a correct or a specific order. And the way that you can do that or manage that is just launch X-Plane 11 one time and get up to this screen. And then if you quit again, I'm going to go ahead and quit. I haven't even loaded a flight. All I need to do is launch it once. Okay, so now it's quit. And if I navigate back to my documents folder and then my X-Plane 11 beta, X-Plane, and then custom scenery, you'll see, you can see here's all of the different custom sceneries and tons of ortho sceneries. Way down here at the bottom is a file called scenerypacks.ini. If you open that up with a text editor, this is just a list in a specific order of all of the different sceneries that you've installed. And the only thing that's important here is that the listing for the airport scenery, which in this case is this one called PNG AYHQ HANA, is actually above the Ortho4XP listing of wherever that tile is that we made. We did -5,142. There it is right there. So the only thing that you want to make sure is that you don't want to end up, I'm going to copy this line, you don't want to end up with something that looks like this, where the terrain created by Ortho4XP is actually above or gets written above or on top of this one. So you want whatever's at the top of this list is going to get written last. So if you have this set up like this in your Scenery Packs INI, the only thing that you need to do is copy this line or matching line. So I'm going to hit Control X and cut that line, and then make sure that it gets pasted down here underneath. The order really doesn't matter, but it needs to be underneath the landmarks and underneath global scenery. These are the ones that it's important that it goes underneath. Now, one more thing, you'll notice this line here is a shortcut to the overlays folder. And again, I'm just going to quickly show you how my system is set up. I'm going to shrink that up just so we can see stuff here real quick. You'll notice that when we built a tile, when we built this tile right here, we had all of these things checked, and we also said extract overlays. We had a check mark there. And so what that did as well is it took, again, overlays are things like roads, autogen, any kind of scenery that sits on top of the terrain. And what that did was, let me navigate back to my D drive and look in Ortho4XP. You'll see I have a folder here called Y Ortho4XP Overlays. And inside there, you'll see Earth Nav data. And inside there, you'll see, again, your mileage may vary depending on how many tiles you've made. But these are all of the different tiles that have overlays. And again, you'll see the same folder structure. I go into -10,140. And then here's -5,142. All of these files generally are fairly small, so I don't bother moving them or copying them anywhere. The only thing that I've done is I've just come into this folder, found this folder here, right-clicked on that, created a shortcut, and then I take that shortcut and I drag it into my X-Plane 11 folder inside the custom scenery. And so I would make that shortcut and drag that here and let go into there. That's all that I really did. And you can see that shortcut sitting right there. And then it's also represented in the Scenery Packs INI file. In again, in the order of things, make sure that the overlays are underneath the landmarks, and make sure that the overlays are above any of the Z Ortho4XP tiles. So again, the order here is important, and after you adjust this, make sure you save it, and then you can relaunch the sim. So that's a brief explanation on how to use these files. It's a little bit to get your head wrapped around, but in the end, using Ortho4XP and taking advantage of the more realistic terrain and photorealistic terrain is a huge improvement on how the sim looks and becomes very immersive. A lot of these airfields and things, especially in Papua New Guinea, become very difficult to find because you look around in the terrain and it all looks the same. So good luck. If you have still have questions or problems, feel free to contact me on my Discord channel, and either myself or there's lots of other guys who have been down this road before. Somebody would be willing to help you get going. And I apologize in advance because you'll probably get going down this road and wonder how you did without it before. So, all right, take care, enjoy.